What time is it?
It's Friday night.
Friday night's gonna be alright. It's gonna be right. It's gonna be alright now, baby. Friday night's gonna be alright. It's gonna be right. It's gonna be alright now, baby. Friday night's gonna be alright. Gonna be right. It's gonna be alright now, baby. So get ready for Friday night.
Hey, hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. Yes, it is another Friday night here on my channel, and thank you for joining me on this one. I hope you're all doing really well out there. And if you saw my video last Friday, I presented an interview that I did with the wonderful Ruby Pepper, where we talked all things Kirsty MacColl. And to follow that one up, no, I haven't invited Ruby again. That is further down the line. No, I invited the brilliant DJ, remixer, musician, just overall a brilliant person, James, also known as Project K. Yeah, so I talked quite a lot about Project K and the collaboration that he did with Magenta Soulstar last year. And first and foremost, they released this single, Mind Over Matter, which is a cover of an E.G. Daily song. It's just a wonderful, wonderful cover of that one, and the voice of Magenta Soulstar. Yeah. And then they released the second single, Ring of Ice, which is a Jennifer Rush track that I wasn't familiar with in its original, but it blew me away. Equally brilliant stuff. And now, today, on this very Friday, they are releasing the last and third single in this trilogy of singles. And that is back to where they started from the first single with another E.G. Daily cover, this time around with the wonderful Love in the Shadows.
Honey, secrets in the dark, love in the shadows.
It's out on streaming services. You can watch the video here on YouTube, of course. And if you go to Energize Records, if you want to own a physical copy of any of these singles, all three of them perhaps, why not? You can go and order them through Energize Records. I haven't received my copy yet here, so that's why I only show these. But in the interview that you're going to see now, that I did with Project K, we talk about the humble beginnings, really. Where did it all start? And I also touch upon the remix work that he done for legends like Kim Wilde. He's done remix works for Dannii Minogue, Steps, Ace of Base, and the list goes on and on and on. And then, of course, his own music together with Magenta Soulstar. And to round things off, he actually has an upcoming album as well. So we're going to talk about that one as well in this interview. So without any further ado, we're just going to get to the interview that I did with James. Here we go. Okay, so I want to say welcome to James, otherwise known as Project K. And yeah, I've been admiring your production for quite a while now, and that's why I invited you to do this interview. Yeah,
you're very, very kind. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the support you've shown me on your channel, considering you don't know me at all. it is very much appreciated, and it's great fun to be here. Thank you so much.
Nice to have you. And I have to be honest here, because I know that you and I talked about this privately before, but the first time I saw your name pop up on any remixes was probably on the RSD release of a Kim Wilde record.
Okay.
Was that 2 years ago? Could be
2025. That wasn't it? I think the RSD mixes.
Not from her latest album. There was another RSD release with her older tracks, like View from...
the special disco mixes one.
Yeah, the special disco mixes. I couldn't think of a name. Yeah, thank you. So I just have to be honest here, because when I saw that, and I think I mentioned it on my channel as well, I was like, I'm not really interested in all of these modern remixes. And I didn't point out a name, but I remember seeing your name there. Mm-hmm. And I have regretted that one because I never picked it up. But I have to say, because we're going to touch up on this a bit later, but I was so discouraged by new mixes of old tracks, and I think that stems from the 1990s. So you have to excuse me, because once my eyes and ears open up and I eventually listen to the remixes, the modern remixes, I was blown away. Yeah.
I honestly, I think you are not at all alone in that. I think there's a great suspicion or wariness around modern day mixes of older tracks, and there's a good reason for that. I think we kind of went through waves, didn't we, where mixes got more and more experimental and more far removed from the original source material, which you can call creative and interesting, all of which it is, but also a bit random or irrelevant or whatever. And that's not my personal style. I'm not criticizing that at all. It's just not what I like to do. And very briefly, in the case of those Kim mixes, there was a brief from the Remix A&R chap, a really lovely guy called Tom. He wanted those mixes to be sympathetic to the era. So,
Yeah.
you know, he didn't direct as in it must sound like this, but it needs to work in a context of an 80s remix album. And I think all of the tracks do. They're all quite different and they bring in different vibes, but they are all sympathetic to that era. And that's why perhaps they were, rather than having, you know, some kind of nosebleed techno mix going on, or you know, I'm thinking perhaps of the Blondie remix albums, which were a bit of a mess back in the 80s and early 90s, where as a huge Blondie fan, you know, some of those mixes didn't work for me because they were just too, you know, Armand van Helden remixing Atomic, for example. It's okay, we've lost the whole vibe of the song there. So that's not my usual modus operandi, certainly. But we'll come to that, I'm sure.
Absolutely, you're spot on. That's exactly what I got so tired about, because, of course, Armand van Helden, if we talk about him, did the famous Tori Amos remix as well. And I was a big Tori Amos fan, and I was like, this is nothing like the original at all. And I understand it's for the dance floors, for the clubs, but yeah.
And it's a great dance track, but it has almost nothing to do with the song.
No.
But that's a really interesting case for me, because I think that almost worked in reverse in a bad way, because Warner's reissued the Boys for Pele album with that as a bonus track. And I was in music retail at the time, and all the club kids were coming and buying it thinking they were going to get an album of that style. And of course they didn't. They had Mad Tory being very eccentric on a harpsichord.
Yeah.
And the number of copies that came back, because they wanted an album of Armand van Helden beats, and what they got was very, very different. And if we're honest, probably some of Tory's least accessible material. So again, that's just, you know, record company nonsense, isn't it? Of tacking something that's been hugely successful on to something where it doesn't belong. See also Vogue on I'm Breathless, perhaps. You know, just I understand the reason behind it, but I think it's a little bit short-sighted. But.
It is, yeah. Well, absolutely. So, yeah, that's where it all started for me, discovering Project K, really. Not really through that record, but it opened up my eyes when I started listening to it digitally. So, yeah.
Right.
And
Thank
then
you to Kim.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start from the beginning, really. Well, at least from when did you start doing music or remixing, really?
Okay, crikey, how far to go back? Let's just start as a slight aside and say probably from the age of 10 or 11, when I had a little tape player set up in my bedroom, and I realized that by using the pause button, I could repeat my favorite bits and cut out bits I didn't like. So I started editing stuff even as far back as then. And that would progress on to then splicing songs together and making really crude mega mixes and so on. I mentioned that mainly because I was listening to a podcast with Steve Anderson from Brothers in Rhythm, of course, produced a lot of Kylie records, an absolute musical hero of mine. And he was telling a story of how he used to do the same thing, so much so and so aggressively that he kept breaking the pause button on his stereo and had to take that shop. And that is exactly what happened with me. So I would never flatter myself to compare myself with Steve Anderson and his achievements, but I love that we both started out breaking pause buttons on our stereos. So just a curious aside. So so that was kind of, I suppose, me taking my absolute love and obsession with pop music to the next level and wanting to change it up a little bit. So that was the very beginning. Then in the very late 90s, I put myself through a night school and got a diploma in sound engineering and production, just again because I just love pop so much. And with a very, very dear friend, I bought a small studio setup, a keyboard, programmable keyboard, and a vocal mic and that kind of thing. And we started writing our own stuff and making demos. Long story short, a friend of mine who I worked with knew Tom Watkins very vaguely and approached him with our demo. We didn't even know it was happening. So
the legendary Watkins.
Yes, let's go with legendary.
Yeah.
Maybe notorious. I don't know. Yes, so Tom Watkins of Bros, Pet Shop Boys, E17 fame. One day at work, I got a phone call from him saying, "I'm with your friend here, listen to your music and I love it. I want to sign you," and so on. We could not believe it. That didn't really come to anything. We were with him for a few years, but that's a whole other story, perhaps for another time.
Oh, wow. It sounds interesting.
Well, there were some funny tales, I can tell you. He had some out there ideas for us. But it was in between making that music with my wonderful friend Paul, in that downtime, that I just started playing around with other songs I liked, and I started remixing them properly, overdubbing them, and so on. And basically what happened was, everything's happened by accident, really. I made some Kylie Minogue remixes of songs that didn't have remixes or where I wanted an extended version. And on the disc, I wrote Project KRMX for This Is My Kylie Remixes project. That was it. My partner at the time, completely unbeknownst to me, uploaded it to one of those file sharing sites that were popular back at the kind of late 90s, early noughties, and labeled them Project K Remix, which wasn't a name I'd come up with. It was literally just, "This is my project of Kylie remixes." People started downloading those mixes, and suddenly the Kylie forums say, "Hey, there was a bit of a, who's this Project K?" And I was like, "I have no idea, who is it?" Oh, it's me. And that is quite literally how Project K was born. It was none of it was by design. It was completely by accident, and it's just stuck. And I guess I'm grateful for that. I then took it to the next step and started making my own backing tracks. Enrolled my wonderful friend Emma to do some vocals for me, and I put a very early demo of Mind Over Matter onto YouTube. And Australian singer called Peter Wilson, who was signed to Energize, heard it, loved it, and approached me and said, "Would you remix my next single?" And that is how I started my relationship with Energize, that was 2016. So I've been working with them, for them, whatever you want to say, ever since, really. I've done, 70-odd productions and mixes. And I get to work with people like, Nikki French and Rosala now, who I love.
Yeah.
It's Sonia. The recent stuff was all through Energize. So it's been a fantastic, and continues to be, a really wonderful relationship.
Absolutely. And I have to say, Energize Records is something that I discovered last year. This as recent, and they've been going since the 90s, right? Releasing different stuff. And I wasn't really aware, but what a treasure trove. And from artists that I didn't think was doing music anymore. And that's another reason for me to promote this label, because I think there's so much good music to discover out there that people are not aware of. So,
and that's really kind of you. And I think for them, to give them credit, I don't know that there is another independent label like that that's still hanging on, because it's so tough now. As we know, for the income from streaming and so on is so minuscule, and especially for an artist that's got mainly legacy acts, like I said, the Nikki Frenches and Rosales of this world, where you're not going to be streaming in the millions and billions like Taylor Swift and Chapel Rowan. So that they are still going after all this time is testament to their dedication and their commitment and their talent, and of course they're artists, massively so. So I've always thought of my music started as a hobby, and it's kind of just grown from that, and it's the creative process I adore, and I love the end product. I get such a buzz from that creative process. So it's always a joy, and fair play to the Energized boys, like you say, still going after all this time.
Yeah, and still coming up with new albums. Like I said, the Sonia album, which I happen to have here, it's a remixes for Love Train, which is a Philly album that she did.
Correct.
I'm not that into the Philly sound, so the original one
Same.
didn't really gel with me. But when I heard these remixes from, amongst others, you are on this as well, of course, with a couple of great remixes. But it just talked to me, really. I love this album. It's such a good one.
And the great thing with that one is that I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, but Sonia herself wasn't particularly happy with the way the original album turned out.
Okay.
I think she had some reservations about it, and that's partly why it never got a full release at the time. But she has been so positive about the remixes. She absolutely loves them. She, we were sent an email from her saying, love the work you've done, which you don't often get from an artist because, let's be honest, they're far too busy and important and
of course
to be worrying about, James in Manchester doing dodgy remixes. But yeah, no, she's been so incredibly warm and grateful and encouraging about it, which is lovely. It makes all the difference. So yes, you're right. It's a really fun project, and I approached that one slightly differently because of the Philly sound.
Yeah.
I thought, let's try a more 90s Morales kind of vibe for my mixes rather than the 80s high energy that I do a lot more of for Energize. So yeah, it was really good fun. Really happy with how that turned out. And as you said, I'm in some great company on that album.
Absolutely. There's some great, and that's what I love with it, because it's not sounding the same. There's everything, from synth pop to disco and all things in between. It's such a great album. I can highly recommend it to anyone who's listening to this. If you're into your high energy disco or synth pop, no matter. And it's great to see Sonia still going strong. I mean,
the girl can sing. You know? I know that most artists who came through the Stock Aitken Waterman hit factory of the 80s kind of have a bad rep, and we can't pretend that all of them could sing.
No.
But Sonia is a great vocalist. She really, and I think she's got a lovely tone, and obviously when you are in that lovely privileged position that I am, that you get to remix these things, when you hear those raw vocal stems stripped right back without any effects, you absolutely know if that person is a singer or not.
For sure.
And I think she's got a really good tone, and she really suits those songs.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm not. I have so much more I could mention about the Stock Aitken Waterman, but we're going to touch upon that just a bit later here. But now you talking about stems and working with original material. What was the first remix that you did that ended up on a vinyl or a CD that actually got pressed? Remember that?
So, excluding Energize. Which I shouldn't really. So the first one was Peter Wilson, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
And a song called Game of Love was the very first, back in 2016. So Energize obviously would have pressed that, and I've done countless since, which is fab. And then I think really I had a bit of a rush in 2020 when I did the first couple for Kim Wilde. And this was for Cherry Red when they were reissuing the first 3 albums, the Rack albums.
Yes.
And I did Water on Glass and Can You Hear It for those 2 standalone albums. And the same year, for Fascination Management, I remixed Shakespeare's Sister, You Made Me Come to This, which was a dream come true for me because that was my favourite song on the Sacred Heart album.
Oh, yeah.
I just love how campy and fun it is.
Yeah.
And they were releasing a box set of their entire London Records output called Our History. And that was commissioned as I think it was the only new track for that album anyway, for the Sacred Heart album. It was a bit different. It wasn't a remix where I put lots of new sounds on. It was just using the original stems and extending it into what I would call a good old-fashioned 80s extended mix. What was a thrill for me was finding some unused vocals from both ladies, some ad-libs from Marcella, and some spoken word ad-libs from Siobhan, both of which didn't make it onto the album version. So to get to play with those and put those in my extended mix was so excited. And, as a music fan, a pop fan, to get to work on, songs that I grew up listening to in my bedroom or have been clubbing to, whether that's Kim Wilde or Dannii Minogue or Steps. I mean, it's such an honor and it's such a thrill.
Yeah.
But yes, so I think 2020 with the Kim and the Shakespeare Sister, and then there was another rush in 23 when I did the Ace of Base remixes for their box set, Beautiful
Yes.
Life. I don't know if you saw that one. And that was when Danny's Neon Nights 20 hit. And of course, I was asked to remix I Begin to Wonder, which again, what a track to get to do.
I agree.
I think it comes about, one thing tends to lead on to another, you know. So one of the mixes I did for Ace of Base was quite retro disco-y in its style, and the A&R guy thought that would work for I Begin to Wonder. Let's try that. So, you know, one thing came off the back of another, which is a really nice, natural, organic way for it to grow, I think. Vinyl would be slightly different. So the Kim Disco mixes for Record Store Day.
Yeah.
That was the same year as the Steps, Deeper Shade of Blue, Zoe Truck Pitch Disc. And then the following year would have been the Trail of Destruction remix for Kim and the Dannii vinyl, I think, if I got this right.
Yeah,
And
no, it
it's
sounds
interesting,
about right.
You'd probably think that, let's say, those Kim mixes all came through the same route, and they really didn't. So the retro ones, if you like, in terms of the ones from the Rack albums, were commissioned by the project management at Cherry.
Yeah.
But the Trail of Destruction was actually Ricky Wilde himself. So he'd obviously enjoyed what I'd done with those other songs that he hadn't had a hand in.
Yeah.
And actually, he approached me and asked me to remix Videotech, which he recorded with Nina, the German synthwave singer.
Such a great track.
I love that album, the Scala Hearts album.
Yeah.
With Ricky X Nina.
Yeah.
I just adore that album. I think it's incredible. And I'll be totally honest, when I was asked to do Videotech and their request was to do a disco mix, I didn't hear it. It wouldn't have been the style I'd have for that track. And sometimes that happens. You know, sometimes as a remixer, you're given quite a strict brief. Sometimes you're given no brief at all. Sometimes it's loosely, you know, guided. But actually, it turned out okay. It was quite fun, and it was a lot of fun to work on. And Ricky and Nina loved it. And Ricky liked it enough to ask me directly to do Trail of Destruction, which, again, I mean, what a song that is.
Yeah.
And I have to say, again, you know, I mentioned it with Sonia, but to have a phone call from Ricky Wilde himself, you know, this man's a legend, right?
Exactly.
He wrote and produced Kids in America and You
Yeah.
Came and these incredible pop songs. And now he's on my telephone asking me if I'll mess around with the song he's just done with his sister. And I'm just in heaven. So an absolute honor. So yes, I think, sorry, that was a really long answer to a short question, wasn't it?
No, it's interesting because it all kicked off in a really big way for you there with both Kim and Marty's side project there. Was it Nina? Yeah, you said, with the Videotech, for example.
And you know, as I said, you know, I was lucky enough to be on calls with Ricky and Nina that and just the most wonderful people. Ricky Wilde is the most enthusiastic and passionate, as you'd expect from someone who's made music all these years.
Yeah.
But there is no jaded, and the level of gratitude and appreciation that he expresses, you know, he gets so excited by it, which, you know, for someone who's remixing this song, you can't ask for more than that. You know, the buzz you get, wonderful. What a lovely bloke he is.
Yeah.
Fab.
And I'm sorry if I just called him Marty. That is, of course, the father.
Yes.
But it is Ricky that I was referring to, not Marty. He's still going strong, though.
I mean, yes, I was lucky enough to see Kim in Liverpool on the last tour, the Closer tour. And another one, I mean, I don't know how these styles, and I mean this with love and respect, you know, obviously she's slightly older than she was, and she still sounds phenomenal, and they're still rocking out. And, you know, Ricky's daughter, Scarlett, is on the stage, and she can, another one with an incredible voice. So it's a family affair, but it's just, what they're still doing is brilliant. I'm just so proud to be to play a tiny part in that.
And if anyone has forgotten, because I've shown it here a couple of times, here we go. This is the RSD releases with mixes from Project K, and we also have Pensacola Mist, Chrisorama, Rain Resner. Yeah. And these are available now on CD as well, so you don't have to hunt down this 10-inch. But great one.
Yes. They're on the Closer expanded CD and streaming the digital version as well. So
Exactly.
yeah, they're all there now.
And I also want to touch upon Dannii. Here we go.
There she
This is, of course, a Neon Knights remixed that came out for Record Store Day as well. And Dannii is a recent acquaintance with me as an artist because I've been a big fan of Kylie for years and years. But Dannii, for some reason, I glossed over Dannii. But I think at this point, I won't say that I'm fatigued of the Kylie material, but it's a breath of fresh air to me, really. They sound very much the same, not the same, but you know what I mean. Similar voice.
Similar tone. I'd agree with that. Yeah.
And of course, you did a remix, as you mentioned. How did that come about? How did you get in contact with Dannii or her team?
As I said, I'd love to say I've been chatting with my mate Dannii, but I haven't. I did. I got a very lovely signed copy from her, which was very, very sweet.
Oh, that's nice.
But so yes, same A&R remix team. Tom again. He was managing the Neon Knights 20 project, and it initially came out as a great big, I think 7-disc box set, CD set. And that was where the first mixes, and it was again Tom's idea. I think he said, let's see if we can do, or rather, can you do a sort of a Night at 54 disco mix. And that is one of my many, many, many influences from music through the years. You know, I'm a huge fan of Donna Summer's 70s stuff, for example. I think her MacArthur Park Suite might be one of the finest records ever made, just my personal opinion.
That's a good one.
And as soon as you listen to I Begin to Wonder, well, at least for me, I was like, yes, I can hear those strings, that kind of chic string line going on. It was just a heap of fun, so much fun to do. One of my proudest moments, I think, definitely. Originally, it was even longer. I think I pushed it to about the 10-minute mark.
I can imagine that is easy to do with something that you really love, because if you sit down and do a remix or even your own music, it tends to stretch. Yeah, I know.
It really does. And again, this probably is because I am a producer remixer. You know, I pay probably more attention to the music and how it's constructed and the layers and all of that, certainly, than I do to lyrics. It's a failing of mine. I don't pay enough attention to lyrics. I'll have people say to me, "Oh my God, those words are so beautiful," or "They're so sad," and I'm like, "Oh, I was listening to the snare," or whatever it is. No, that's a slightly extreme example, but no, I do. I tend to draw more from listening to the way it's built up and stuff. So, and I like to sort of show that off and break it down and build it up again. And I realize I'm really out of fashion with this, because these days, you know, streaming requires instant gratification, doesn't it? You know, intros now are 3 or 4 seconds and it's straight into the first verse, because otherwise you run the risk of somebody hitting the skip button, and that's no good because you don't get the stream. So, you know, I'm afraid I think those long mixes, and bear in mind, you know, I lived through clubbing in the 90s when Brothers in Rhythm and BT were making 14, 15-minute 12-inch mixes, or you know, even, you know, Trevor Horn with Frankie in the 80s and those propaganda mixes, which I just adore and went on for a good 10 minutes. That's my thing. I love that, but that is no longer fashionable. I know that. So So I have to try to be slightly more brutal with my editing, but actually only to a degree. I try to offer both. Here's a radio edit, but also for those who want it. And you've touched on this on my own CD singles. For those who want it, here is a longer version. If you want the full 8-minute high-energy murder mix, then it's there for you.
Exactly. Now, and that's the thing. I understand that we have to change with the times as well. And like you said, the attention span is this much today with most of the audiences. So, but it is a shame, because you don't get the time to really build that song, because you touched upon Frankie or Propaganda. Just listen to those mixes. And I think one of my favorite 12 inches ever is the Annihilation remix. I can't even speak today, of Two Tribes, and the way it builds. And it's just a perfect example of a remix.
It's absolute mastery, isn't it? That not only in that particular mix can you show everything that you've put into the track in terms of the layers of percussion and that. I mean, that bass line has to be heard alone, doesn't it?
Yes.
All the different layers, but also he so cleverly used all the samples from the public information films. You get the whole, my name's Ped, my name's Mark, mine is the last voice you'll ever hear. You know, you can't fit all of that into 2.5 minutes.
No, you can't.
Happen. And it would have been a much poorer world without it, is my view, certainly. So yeah, I'm a big fan of letting a song breathe and play around with the arrangement, showing off what you've put into it. And to bring it back to Dannii, there was a lot of that. You know, there was a huge amount of the string samples were all actual real orchestral samples rather than programmed in, because they sounded more real, and it took a long time, and I wanted to show them off.
Yeah, of course you want to do that. But I have to say this, I keep repeating myself here on my channel, but what I like with your remixes is the way you transform them. You don't just do an extended remix of them, because that's the usual thing that we hear from most remixes, at least in my ears. But you actually transform them. So if you call a mix a disco mix, it is truly a disco mix with strings and all. So absolutely.
That is my intention. So I'm very, very grateful that you feel that, and I'm really proud that you think I've achieved that, because that's exactly my modus operandi. As I said, it's not a straight extended, but also it's not so radical and random that you don't hear the song. I want I want the song to star. That's the thing. The song is the main feature. Don't get me wrong, I might have some fun with some dub mixes, some of which get released and some of which don't, but the main mix needs to honour and represent the song, but also present it in a new way. And as I said before, sometimes that way is requested or directed. I'm given a strict brief. Other times it's complete carte blanche, and you can really have fun. Or you just listen to the song and think, what do I think? What do I think? So that's always my intention anyway, to present something that's interesting, different enough, but true enough also to the song.
That's a good summary, because that's exactly what I hear as well. You can feel that you have a passion and respect for the original material, but that at the same time you transform it into whatever it's going to be. If it's a high energy track, a disco track, or a synth pop track, whatever. It just deviates from the original, and that's what we want to hear. But we still want to hear those original hooks,
and
whatever.
Tobias, you are never going to please all of the people. All art is subjective, and music is probably the most of all. And some people hate remixes, full stop. Why are you messing around with the song? I mean, ABBA is a great example. The ABBA boys have always said they will not allow remixes of their material. They spent months and months creating the perfect 3.5 minutes. That's it. And that's fine. That's absolutely their prerogative. I wish they would, because I'd love to hear Steve Anderson let loose on gimme them something. But I totally respect that. And it's quite a terrifying thing for me. I genuinely find whenever I submit a remix, I'm always quite nervous. I always think I've done my best, and I'm normally very happy with the result, but that doesn't mean they're going to love it. So, to send a track to Ricky Wilde and here's my remix of Trailer Destruction, is this what you wanted, is for me really terrifying. You've trusted me with this, you've given me this enormous honor, and I really, really want you to be happy with it. With Ricky, he always has been. That's wonderful. But it's quite scary. So I don't
can imagine,
to love all of my mixes, and that's absolutely fine too.
Yeah.
The only thing I will say is I don't use AI at all. I never have. There was a comment on Discogs about the Trailer Destruction mix, not just mine actually, and the Pensacola Mist, that they were both. What did it say? Just something. They're both just cheap AI mixes, and I was like,
oh really?
Yeah, if you don't like it, that's fine. Don't like that style, that's fine. But I can assure you, I've never used AI in my music creation at all. Again, not having to go at people who do. It's just not what I do. My reward comes from my creative input and my processes. That's what I get off on. That's what I really enjoy. So I don't expect everyone to love everything by any stretch, but I can promise you it's all from me.
That's good to hear. And I do understand a lot of people turning to AI for everything now, because if it sounds too good, or if it sounds good, period, they're like, it must be AI. because everything is AI today. If you see a beautiful photo, I can imagine a lot of people say, it's probably just AI, because it went so far in such a short time now, with everything just being artificial, and we are really treading on thin ground here, or
we are, and it's a complete. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it's a shame, because I will see something on, I don't know, social media, and it might be a beautiful scenery, some nature in action, or it might be an animal doing something really cute, and I think, I love that, and then I think, oh, hold on, is it real though? And you have to second guess, and quite often it isn't, and you can't help but feel a bit disappointed.
Exactly.
And I am probably sounding so old-fashioned, and I'm not against technology. I mean, I couldn't make the music I make without a lot of technology. I know that, but to me, there is a big difference between creating something using MIDI and the sounds and all that, and just typing in some commands.
Yeah.
Make this song sound like. I don't think that's going to give you the same creative reward as actually building it. Just my view. And I say, I have nothing against people using it. Anything that helps people make music is great, but I do wonder where it's going to stop. And streaming sites are awash already with so much music. It's so hard to cut through, isn't it?
Okay, so I'm just gonna move on to your new material here in a couple of seconds, because I have a really nerdy question for you. We're just talking about music not being AI, which I really appreciate to hear. But do you use software or hardware, or is it a combination of both today?
Combination of both. And I've moved in over the last sort of 7 or 8 years from nearly all hardware to nearly all software.
Okay.
I was really, really late to the MIDI party. I was so used to programming on my great big Korg workstation and doing it, playing everything and recording it in and adjusting it. And I hadn't even thought, MIDI, you're basically using MIDI, you're just not using it on a computer screen where you have so much more flexibility.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I was so late to that party, but and that's what I said earlier about, I can't be a hypocrite. I use technology to help me. I can't make a 60-piece string orchestra string section.
No.
I need to cheat with that, so I absolutely do, and I don't want to be hypocritical about that. But as I said, it is all sampled in, programmed, timed. It's all done organically, I suppose, rather than just typing in, now make this happen, or I want.
No, exactly.
Like this.
But that is the difference here, because what's happening today, just to stick a bit with the AI part, remember back in the 80s when the new technology came along with drum machines and synthesizers, the music industry, or the working people within the music industry, the musicians, were terrified. They were like, all they have to do is push a button and out comes music. That wasn't true, of course. You had to program so many things through really rudimentary sequences and all of that. But we are actually at that point in history now where we can actually just prompt an AI to do music.
And the thing now is, whereas we've used technology to help, and even down to singers, when autotune came in, and it was suddenly you don't need to be as accurate a singer anymore. And I'm sure there were some amazing singers out there who were horrified. It's like, hold on, that's my skill set, that's my gift. Now I don't need it, sort of thing. But now you don't need a singer at all, and that is a huge step. That you can sign up to one of these platforms, and it will literally create the song, orchestration, production, the singer, everything. You don't need anyone. That to me is, that's a huge leap from where we've gone. Like you said, we've progressed with developments all the way through time, and we've used them and upset people along the way, I'm sure. But we've always maintained some creative control, whereas now it is just some prompts. And that does feel like a step too far, perhaps, for me personally, and not the way I want to go anyway. But we'll see what happens.
And I was just mentioning this because you said you work with both software and hardware, and I think that's the way most musicians do today. If you do remixes or if you do your own music, it's just the way we are doing things. And I mean, that combination has been a fact ever since the late 80s when the Atari was introduced with the sequencer software. But it's still up to you to create the music, not a prompt. So I just want to put it out there.
And I don't work fast. I'm not a fast worker, and I have a almost obsessive attention to detail, which may or may not be a good thing depending on your point of view. I'm sure I spend hours tweaking things that 99% of people won't hear a difference, but I will. But I think that's true of a lot of us with our creative streaks, isn't it? So.
Absolutely. And just one last question on hardware, because I know you're very fond of the PWL sound, or the Stock Aitken and Wardman sound, as it's known by. They used a Lin as the drummer. That is, of course, the Lin drum machine. Do you have that as a software version? Because I don't expect you to have a retro.
Yeah, I don't have an actual Lin machine at all, but yes, I have Lin plugins in my DAW setup, my digital audio workstation. But interestingly, I think that PWL, as you said, is so famous for using the Lin drum, but quite often I think they use the Lin drum for its sequencing abilities.
Oh, yeah.
Not necessarily its drum. They did use some of the drum sounds, undoubtedly, but not just. So I think, we all know about the Calrex Soundfield microphone, and we all know about the Lin drum machine. But yes, they used it as a sequencer as much as for its drum sounds in itself. So it wasn't all purely Lin drums. But yeah, I do tend to use Lin drum sounds within my saw referencing tracks.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, I was just curious because I know you included the Lin sound on some of your records. And speaking of which, your most recent output as on your own, well, not on your own, because you've done a collaboration with the magnificent Magenta Soulstar. And I got, there we go, a bit of focus.
Snubbing it with Betty Boo there.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll cover up Betty Boo for now. So Mind Over Matter, here we go, was the first one. Absolutely. Yeah. And you and Magenta reminded me of a song that I nearly forgot about. I loved it so much when it was released. And wow, what a song. And then you followed it up by doing Ring of Ice. That's, of course, Jennifer Rush. And that was a completely new track to me because...
Right.
In my narrow world, I only heard The Power of Love. So,
and I don't think that's your narrow world. I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to do it. So there's a bit of a theme certainly with these three singles, this trilogy, but also actually with most of the album, not all, but most, which is I would rather champion an underdog of a song. I'd rather bring out a song that's been forgotten or isn't that well known, or in my eyes didn't reach the degree of success it deserved, shall we say.
Yeah.
I would rather do that than cover something that's really well known and beloved. Apart from anything else, you're more likely to annoy people. If you choose to do a cover of Madonna's Like a Prayer, you're going to annoy a lot of Madonna fans.
Of course.
So it's not that there's a grand plan, but certainly that was a bit of a theme. So Mind Over Matter, I won't go into it too much, but you probably know, has quite an interesting backstory.
Yeah.
Nikki Lager, I think her name was, did it originally, and then Stock Aitken Waterman did it with Debbie Harry, which is the version I first heard as a dodgy-sounding bootleg and fell in love with, because as I've said before, I'm a huge Debbie Harry and Blondie fan. That was the version that really I was like, oh my goodness, this is a lost opportunity. This could have been huge. This should have been huge. And then for really complicated record label politics reasons, they couldn't use Debbie's vocal when it was used in a film, and they had to re-record it. Same backing track, but with the wonderful E.G. Daly. And just to be clear, E.G.'s vocal is sensational on it. I have a bias towards the Debbie Harry one, possibly because I heard it first and possibly because I was a big Blondie fan. But that's not to take away from E.G.'s wonderful vocal. But even her version wasn't a hit. And I was just and also the song, until Magenta and I released it, isn't available at all digitally. It's not on CD, it's not on streaming. And that was my justification for recording it and releasing it. That was my plan. Like, this song needs to be out there. It needs to be brought back, probably for a relatively small market, for a small audience. But that was my reason. So I had originally done a demo version with my wonderful friend Emma on vocals. Emma sings on a lot of my album. She's got an incredible voice, but a very sweet, pure tone. And I thought actually, do you know what? These are high energy tracks. They need a different vocal approach. They need something a bit more not gutsy, because Emma's got a huge voice as well, but just something with a little bit more grit, perhaps.
Yeah.
And that's how Magenta came in.
We're doing what can be done. Mind over matter. There's a battle that can be won. Mind over matter. Ring of ice, break apart. All the lonely people wearing a ring of ice.
So I was producing a track for a chap named Baz, who hosts a radio show. He had just been interviewing Steve Grant from Tight Fit.
Okay.
You remember Tight
Yes.
Fit?
Yeah.
And you may or may not know that for a very short time in the 80s, Steve Grant was in a boy band called Splash. And
Really?
only 2 singles. The first one was written and produced by Stock Aitken Waterman. You would think you're signed to Elton John's label, you've been in Tight Fit, you've just done a Stock Aitken Waterman track, this is going to be huge.
Yeah.
It bombed, it disappeared without trace. It was called Qu'est-ce que c'est? And this chap, Baz, in his conversation with Steve Grant, Steve said, you should cover Qu'est-ce que c'est? So Baz approached me and asked me if I would produce it in the PWL style.
Yeah.
And I said, I will, but we need to find a really good female vocalist because it needs a strong backing vocal. And he said, I know, I've got just the person. He approached Magenta, who he'd interviewed on his radio show when she'd done some work with Candy Apple Blue, I think it was. And when the vocals came through, I just fell in love. I was like, this girl, she needs to not be just a featured vocalist or just a backing singer. So I approached her with this trilogy idea, with the 3 songs. And luckily for me, she was on board. She loved the message of Mind Over Matter. She loved the positivity of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, just as I'm terrified when I send a remix in, I was really nervous when she sent her vocals back, because I was like, what if they're not what I'm expecting? What am I going to do? You know,
Yeah.
but I got goosebumps, and I just thought, you know, she is absolutely perfect for this. Not only Mind Over Matter, but the next 2 that I've got in mind. And yeah, so that was how they came to be. And she is a dream to work with. She is so much fun. She's just lovely, and what a voice.
Yeah.
She has the right amount of grit, the control that she can do, the light and the shade, and I've loved working with her, really have.
Fight, and never say die. We've got the right to be satisfied. Whoa, they're bold to be so brave.
Yeah, I totally agree with that as just a listener as well, because I was blown away by that. Just as you said, she's got that grit. The E.G. Daly also has in her voice, right?
Mm.
And I have to say, because this is a separate episode, because I would love to talk to Magenta as well on some episode, but go and visit her website. She does a lot of different covers, and one of my favorite ones is Pointer Sisters' Dannii. She does a splendid cover of that one.
So I'm going to let you into a secret now.
Oh yeah.
Here's an exclusive for you. I've also done a cover of Dannii, but with Emma on vocals, and I didn't know that it was one of Magenta's songs.
Really?
Yeah. It's one of my favorite tracks, and and I didn't realize Magenta had recorded it. But I have to say, Emma, my friend, has also done the most amazing vocal on that, and I'm so thrilled with it. And I think that will probably be the last single to promote the album. Partly also because I kind of need to let people know that these 3 songs with Magenta, Mind Over Matter, Ring of Ice, and the new one, Love in the Shadows, are they're not representative of the whole album. This is not an album of 10 high energy tracks all sung by Magenta. In fact, the trilogy that is the tracks with Magenta. The rest of the album is with Emma. So I kind of need to say to people, this is on the album, but also some of it sounds like this.
Exactly.
It's a little bit more varied than just that. But yes, a strange coincidence that, or is it? Because it's such a great song.
Exactly.
I think
It
Dannii
is.
has one of the best choruses ever.
It's so good. And it's one of those tracks by the Pointer Sisters I think a lot of people forget about, because we always hear Jump or Automatic, which it's another great song, by the way. But
Exactly. So again, it ties in with this theme of mine of here's a song that isn't as remembered as it should be. And the other thing with Dannii is the chorus was sampled in quite a few house tracks in the noughties, I think, like Stupid Disco by, was it Junior Jack? But only the chorus. So I'm like, okay, so most people remember the chorus, but they don't remember the rest of the song. So for me, I'm like, no, we need to bring the whole song to people now. They need to hear the verses as well. So yes, it does fit loosely in with this kind of semi-accidental theme of resurrecting songs that deserve more, I guess.
Absolutely. And you already touched upon it, but this is a trilogy. Well, not what I'm holding in my hand, because I'm missing the last part here. But as we speak, it just been announced that the third part, and you already said it was going to be Love in the Shadows. And I happen to have that one here. Here we go. So you can't really see it because my webcam won't focus really, but this is a 12-inch single with Mind Over Matter in a remixed form and Love in the Shadows on the AA side.
There we do. There we've got it.
And the funny thing is, this is a double production kind of thing, because we already mentioned Stock Aitken and Waterman, which did Mind Over Matter, of course. Mm-hmm. But it was Harold Faltermeyer who did the other one, So it's quite different sounding tracks.
Yeah, so Love in the Shadows was co-written and produced with Harold Faltermeyer, and I think mixed by Jelly Bean, who, of course, was ubiquitous in the mid to late 80s. And so it was never given that Stock Aitken Waterman sheen in the same way that Ring of Ice wasn't, but I always thought would have worked in that style. So that, again, was my reasoning here. Ring of Ice I always heard with more of a Rick Astley bouncy soul production style, whereas Love in the Shadows, like Mind of Matter, I heard as the full throttle, high energy, Dead or Alive kind of vibe. So that was completely my methodology there. I should have said, really, I think Dead or Alive's You Spin Me Round is probably a record that had the biggest impact on me in my formative years. I can just remember it on Top of the Pops in early 85, and my parents saying, what is that? What does he look like? And me being transfixed, not just by the vision that was Pete Burns, but the sound, this enormous club record. Of course, I was too young to have gone clubbing or anything, but it got me straight away. So that really is the influence, I guess, that I've carried on to this date. So just for me personally, that was a hugely influential and important record, much like Donna Summer's I Feel Love was. So you can hear that clearly in what I've tried to achieve with these records. It's, and I'm really, really proud of Love in the Shadows. Again, I think Magenta has nailed the vocal. Not an easy one to take on, but she just gets it and she just delivers it. And for a producer, it's a dream to work with. But I've been so lucky because Emma is the same. She has this incredible pure tone, very accurate, so very little tuning needed. Which is great because I don't want it to sound like Cher's Believe. I want it to sound like a natural sounding vocal. So I've been so lucky to have both those share their talents with me.
And I know it's you for freedom. And I know you can feel the space in me. I need secrets in the dark, love in the shadows, passion burning out from under my skin.
So if you want to grab the full trilogy, you know where to go. It's Energized Records. And you can actually listen to the new track there as well on Energized Records. So you get a sneak peek. And it sounds absolutely lovely. You transformed it into a high energy track from something that was more synth poppy, really, in its original.
Yeah.
So great.
Can't keep a good song down.
Exactly. And then after this trilogy is concluded, and you already touched upon it, there's going to be an album. Yes, a Project K album. So can you tell
Absolutely.
me something about that one?
Yeah, so there's no grand plan. There's nothing particularly clever about it. They are all cover versions. I will say that from the off. I haven't written a song for years. I used to when I was in the band managed by Tom, but I think in the process of honing my production craft, I just wanted to focus on songs that exist and that I love, and that's what this is. It's a collection of songs that I love, most of which are either forgotten or never really had the success they deserved. It's much more varied, as I said, than the three high energy tracks. I'd say the other tracks there's some trance influences in there. There's a very downbeat ballad that's very beautiful, but it's all very much electronic pop. That's the obviously. If you enjoy electronic pop with lovely female vocals, then hopefully you'll enjoy the album. I hope. There is one track, I can't believe I've done it, where I sing lead. I don't know what I was thinking, quite frankly, but that made it on there. That actually is a cover of a Sunscreen song, if you remember Sunscreen.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And that's the one song that I've changed quite substantially. Now, I don't know if you know the issue. So when you do a cover version, if you don't change the song, if you don't change any of the lyrics or the chords, you don't need permission. You are free to release it. You have to declare the correct publishers and so on, make sure everyone gets their money. That's fine. But you don't need actual permission. Whereas if you change a song, then you need to get the either writers or publishers' permission. So I sent Sunscreen my version because I've changed all the chords on it with some help from the wonderful Barely Disco. And they wrote back within a couple of days to say, love your version, please go ahead, which I thought was really good way of them. Yeah, so that's quite lovely. But yes, so the album is a collection, 10 tracks, all electronic pop, but more of a mixture. There's even, get this, there's a cover of a Nine Inch Nails song on there.
Oh,
Don't think anybody was expecting that from me.
No, not really. And what genre can we expect this Nine Inch Nails cover to be?
So still electro pop. Maybe it's got guitars on it of sorts.
Oh,
maybe think Girls Aloud, Sexy No No No, that kind of guitar sound. So Emma, who I've mentioned a few times, who sings most of the album, is a bit of a rock chick at heart. And God bless her, she has sung all of these disco and high energy and pop songs for me. So I was like, you need to choose one. What would you choose? And this was one of the first ones she suggested. And actually, I love the song. I think it's brilliant. I won't tell you what it is. I'll wait for the album. But
of course.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more varied, but it's very much, like I say, accessible and fairly commercial electro pop would be my summary of it. I'm not sure exactly when it will be out. I need to sort all the boring politics and logistics of it.
Yeah, of course.
So I suspect, like I say, we'll complete the trilogy. I'd like to put one more single out after that, just to sort of set the scene that it's not all in that style, and then hopefully the album.
I love that concept because it is a continuation from what you did with the trilogy, of course, but it's a bit of a different vein, using Emma as well as a vocalist. I'm really looking forward to listening to this one, and God knows what the future holds when it comes to Project K.
Indeed. Who knows? I mean, the music scene is changing so fast. And actually, I think remix culture is I don't want to say dying, but it's slowing right down, I think. Yeah. Because as we said, people, the next generations aren't as interested in long mixes. Clubbing is definitely not what it was in the 90s and noughties, so people aren't seeking out those longer dance mixes anymore. And you can see that from the pop singles these days, you know.
Yeah.
If you get a remix or two, they'll be very, very short and probably not that dissimilar to the radio mix. So the kind of thing that I do and like to do is not as widely loved and popular as it used to be, I think. Which is a shame. It's a real shame, but we'll see where it goes. Yeah. Also, you know, things have a habit of coming back around again, don't they? So.
That's exactly what I was going to comment, because that's why I said you never know what the future holds for you here, because all of a sudden there's going to be this big boom. Everyone's back to the 90s. They all want their remixes, and I really hope that's the case.
Yeah. Me too. Me too.
Yeah. And I do have to say something about what you just said about the remixes being very short. I think a good example of that was when Kylie released Tension, and then the extensions came as well. And I was thrilled about it, but they were only extended by 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes at the most, I think. I was like, that's not an extended remix.
Yeah.
It is extended, I grant you that. But yeah, I was a bit disappointed in that. So that's where the trend is going at this point in time.
Completely. I think it's labels bridging that gap between the new fans who aren't interested and the old school fans who are, but actually they're not quite taking it far enough, because as you said, extending a track to 4 minutes 20 seconds. I mean, the mixes I was listening to in the 90s, you hadn't even got to the first verse by 4 minutes 20 seconds.
No, exactly.
You were still on Brothers in Rhythm's twinkly pianos or BT's strange squiggly electro noises.
Yeah, exactly. I have an upcoming episode here on my channel, which I've been planning for ages, it seems now, but it's my 10 favorite 12-inch singles ever. Ooh. And yeah, you're going to see quite a lot of long mixes on that one, because I do love that old format of doing things from back in the 80s and even into the 90s, where you took care of the track, like build it up. And like you said, you spend 6 minutes just to build up the track, and then it just hit you. Yeah.
I mean, I think for me, back starting in the mid to late 80s, I was as excited by who had remixed a track as I was by the artist.
Yes.
So if I saw Shep Pettibone remix on the front cover of a record, I kind of wanted it, even if I didn't know who the band was.
Yeah, exactly.
And that just carried on, into the 90s and so on. Like I say, whether it was Chicane or Brothers in Rhythm or David Morales or Jimmy Gomez or whoever, and it was a cross-pollination of I've now learned about this artist because they were remixed by one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And I just love all of that. So I will be really, really interested to see your picks.
Yeah.
Very interested. I might be shouting at the screen a couple of times.
Absolutely. You probably will. Yeah. What did you think?
No Shep mix of True Faith in there.
Exactly. And I'm not revealing anything here, of course.
No. I wouldn't ask you to.
It could change by the time I record it.
Yeah, that would be me. I'd publish it and then immediately remember 14 that I'd forgotten to include in my top 10. And
on the subject of you, James, Project K, there is so many more questions I want to bring up, because you just touched upon a sliver of things that you have done for some of the bigger artists, of course, but you also produce quite a lot for other artists. And I think we're going to save that for another time. So if you're up for it, we can do another session later on this year, and we could perhaps follow up on your album as well.
Okay. Well, if I haven't bored all of your viewers to death, then I'm more than happy to go for part 2.
Oh, absolutely.
Why not?
This is my channel. I decide what to goes on this channel. So as long as I'm amused, well, I try to cater to the audience as well, of course. But I do think a lot of people will find this interesting, and I love giving some exposure to indie artists with absolutely stunning material. That's all I have to say.
It's hugely, hugely appreciated. It really is, because as we said, it's so hard to cut through now.
It is.
And, I'm not here to moan about those frustrations. It can be annoying sometimes, but do you know what? I've never done it for certainly not for money or even recognition. It's for the love of the craft, and therefore I need to just cope with that. But it means everything to hear music fans like yourself say, I love what you've done there, and I really enjoyed this, because that's what makes it all worthwhile. So, your support is hugely appreciated. So thank you very much.
And we appreciate your music. No, it was lovely to have you here, James. I want to thank you once again for doing this. Yes, I had a lot of fun with this one, but like I said, I have so many more questions for you, and we're going to touch upon that hopefully in the near future.
Great stuff. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I love the channel. Keep it going, and good luck with the edit.
I'll do my best. Thank you, James.
All right. Thank you so much.
What a wonderful time I had sitting down and talk all things music with James, also known as Project K. I could have gone on for hours, really. I have even more questions, and it was such a great time just talking to him. What a great guy. And I want to thank you once again, James, for doing this interview. I so appreciate it. But like we said in the interview, we do have an excuse to come back in the near future because he does have an upcoming album, and I have even more questions around that one once I listen to it as well, of course. And I also want to remind you, if you got curious after listening to this interview and you never heard of Project K before, even if I talked quite a lot about him here, but for some reason you skip those videos or you just miss them, and you want to listen to the music, like I said in the beginning, they're out today on streaming services. You can go and watch a video here on YouTube, but if you want to own a physical copy of any single really from Energize Records, go to the website, link down in the description, of course. And if you're from the US, because I know I have a lot of viewers from the US, I would recommend you to go to the Bandcamp site to order from there. But of course, that link will also be down in the description, along with links to Project K's website, Magenta Soulstar's website, all the socials, all of that great stuff down in the description. Yeah. So I really hope that you found out something new from this interview, and you will soon discover more of the brilliant work behind Project K's remixes and productions, and of course the wonderful Magenta Soulstar as well. Yeah. So before I leave you today, I want to give a big thank you to all of my subscribers here. You are always near and dear to me, you know that. And a shameless plug here. If you haven't already done so, that's a normal thing, right? Consider subscribing to my channel. Yeah, it would mean quite a lot to me, really, to be serious. I'm a small channel and it will boost me even more. I have a great community here. I met a lot of people through this YouTube channel, and I want to continue doing that. I want to grow this network of people, this community from people all around the world that is as passionate about the music that I'm talking about here on my channel as I am. Yeah. So consider doing that if you haven't, or at least give us a thumbs up if you like the video. But that's it. Shameless plug over. I will be back next Friday. That is certain. But until then, you all take care of yourself. You stay cool. Keep playing that music. And we will have Dannii, of course, from the Kids from Fame, sing us off as usual on a Friday to give you a bit of that energy that I talked about in the beginning. Yeah. But before that, I'm going to bid you a very heartfelt and Swedish adieu to you all.
The movie rolls on, there ain't no more love scenes, the romance is gone. It's a one-man show, it's moving real slow, but it's picking up speed as I'm turning the key. I'm coming up, coming up, coming up, coming up, coming up. Hey, the Friday